Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chewed Gum. It is Tuesday. What month is it? April 15th. As you can see, I have breaking news that is very sad and very exciting. Alyssa, her power is out randomly, which happened to me yesterday, and I don't understand why this is happening. It was like blue skies, no storms, nothing. So Alyssa is very sad. We're actively texting, and she says she loves you all. But Taylor is here, Skeptical Heretic, who is already scheduled to come on next week. And I'm not joking, you guys. I just texted you, like 20 minutes ago? I was calling everybody, texting everybody. I need a co-host. But Taylor is here, so we're going to chat in a minute. I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her. But just keep in mind, we are especially eager to chat with TACIS. If you want to give us a call, it's 720-619-2288. Or if you want to call in and tell us why women should submit to their husbands or something along those lines that sometimes you guys like to do, that's great too. We will also take questions on deconstruction. Alyssa is usually, she is an actual sex coach, so that's who we talk to about sexuality. We can take your calls, but I might tell you to call back when Alyssa's on if it's on that topic. Super chats of $5 or more. We will also read those at the end of the show. I was so busy calling all the people and doing all the things and panicking that I did not think of an exciting super chat prompt. So you guys get to decide, or we'll come up with one throughout the show. Somebody, I'm sure, will say something funny and we can talk about it. Anyways, now that I did my whole speech, Taylor, how are you? Thank you so much for being here. Literally last minute. You are a saint, for lack of a better word.
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be on. I'm glad you messaged me. I was excited for the last message.
Yes. Well, and I was so excited. You're already coming on next week, but this is a little really trial by fire happening here. So we connected not much at all, but over TikTok. That's how I know you. Will you share a little bit just of what got you started, why you decided to create your platform, how long you've been doing this, your back, just all of the things that people want to know?
Yeah. I first started posting TikToks, I think 2 years ago, 2 years plus, not really thinking, much about it, but because it was pretty isolating to, be an atheist when your entire family is Christian. And then also a lot of my friends just weren't going through, my friends and my husband both weren't going through any kind of thing like that. So it was kind of hard for them to relate. So I had been listening to this podcast for a long time called Graceful Atheist, where people tell their stories on deconstruction. And I asked to be on there. And he took me on there, and it just made me feel like I wanted to talk to more people. So after that is when I started making TikToks, and yeah, here I am now. It's great.
That's amazing. I love your TikToks. Every time, you're really good at responding to other people's stuff. And every time I see that it's a stitch from you, I'm like, I know whatever she's about to say is going to be exactly what I wish I would have thought of to say, because it's just so good. And I don't know, I feel like you're also so good at being not snarky, because you're not snarky, you're just being smart. And yet there's always that touch of where I'm like, yes, I feel very satisfied with this response. So
yeah, some get a little ridiculous, but it's still fun.
Yeah, and TikTok is a wild place. That's where I started off, I think about 4 years ago now. And now I've kind of moved over to Instagram. And I forget, every time I log back into TikTok, I'm like, it is the Wild West out here. This is. It
really is.
And then also, threatening to have the whole app shut down, every other week is exciting. Which denomination did you grow up in?
I grew up evangelical, and I went to a lot of non-denominational churches. Yeah,
Same.
Bigger churches, the band, the wearing jeans type.
Yes. Were you guys speaking in tongues and stuff?
No, I actually had only experienced that one time in my life, and it really scared me. But I was always told that wasn't a thing. So I think that's also why it scared me, because I didn't see it as like a spiritual thing. I saw it as a crazy thing.
Well, fair enough. It is.
Yeah. It was like a kind of like the, I guess, if you want to call it the more chill version of Christianity, but also very much Christian nationalist kind. So that's not very chill, but
I had the Christian nationalist kind and the speaking in tongues kind, so it was like Paula White, basically, like that kind of. That was the vibe.
That's intense.
It
but
so
during politics is the first time Trump got elected is when I started questioning like what I was a part of and all of that jazz. Yeah. And then over like 5 or 6 years, it was just like this weird slow burn of, I'm not even sure if I realized what was happening. Like I was, I changed, my politics changed first. So at first I was like,
same.
Yeah, at first I was like trying to be an independent, and then I became more progressive, and then I was still a Christian, but a progressive Christian, like whatever that means, and then an atheist was very last, because that was the scariest label.
That's exactly what happened to me. In fact, and I don't know how many people know this, when I first started, and people are now going to scroll back and go find it, and I'm going to be so embarrassed because it's really cringy. When I first started posting on TikTok, I was like, I don't really believe in any gods, but I felt a little bit better by being like, but the universe, it's like God, you know? So I'll just like, you know, when you literally just relabel something God for no reason at all. It's not like I really thought the universe was a God. I just was like, I'll give my attention to that now. And so a lot of my first videos were kind of just in that like in between world of trying to be spiritual, but I still didn't believe it, but I was so afraid of the label atheist. And
Yeah.
it was Matt Dillahunty ultimately, you know, like talking to people like,
Yeah.
okay, you're not agnostic. You're you're either convinced or you're not. And I was like, oh shit, I really am an atheist and I should just own it and normalize it. So while this helps for both practical purposes and for everyone else, are you on Instagram also? I'm making a little telling the theists to call us.
Oh,
so.
yeah, I am on Instagram.
What
not
is
gonna
your
say I
handle?
post a lot, but I am on Instagram. I think it's the same, like skeptical underscore heretic, I think.
Okay, great. I'll like try to convince you to post more.
Okay.
I just love Instagram so much more than TikTok now, mostly because I don't have the terror of it just like going away overnight every other day.
Well, that's very fair. Instagram comments scare me though. People are like very, oh my gosh, people are like more vicious, but I think it's because it doesn't have as like TikTok's kind of insane with its restrictions of what you're allowed to say and what you know
Yeah,
can't.
it's true.
And Instagram is like you can say whatever and write as long as a comment as you want. So
yeah, no, it's true. I get like the most wild comments on Instagram and death threats and all the things. I think now at this point I'm just like, well,
whatever.
I've heard it all, so whatever, it's happening. And then on this show we get some lovely callers sometimes where I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna just post this here for anybody that wants to get a call in. We already have, maybe our lines are full, but you can try to call once I take this next caller. It's 720-619-2288. As you can hear, Taylor and I have very similar backgrounds. We love talking to theists. That's what we do. That's what we spend our time and our content on. So if you are a theist, this is a great night for you to call. And if you had questions about sexuality, relationships, all of that, not that Alyssa isn't amazing at all of these, but I'm not. So those are good ones to save for when Alyssa is back. Meanwhile, let me just share this to, now you guys get to see what I'm doing like right before the show starts. But I'm posting on my Instagram or on my Facebook. Oh, that's another. Do you have a Facebook page yet?
No, like not at all.
That is probably the darkest place of all of them because most of the accounts are real. They're older dudes or like old dudes. And they say the most unhinged things. And I'm like, this has got to be a bot. And then I go look and I can find like their second cousin and all their children and their birthday party they were at yesterday and the address of where it was. I'm just like, they're just saying this with their whole chest. Like, this is.
It's demoralizing really going through Facebook. It makes me so sad.
It's really. Do you notice, do you get more hate from any specific demographic other than obviously theists. Like for me, it is men. It is like the majority of the worst comments I get are men.
Yeah, and like even more specifically than that, it's like teenage boys that are like very red pilled and or just like turned very religious or something. I don't know. They always have no hate to anime, but they always have an anime picture on TikTok, and those are the ones always coming after me, and it's very weird and specific. But
that is what I remember from. I do feel like in the other apps, it's older people, so then I'm just getting like more thought out trolling and or death threats, which for better or worse, you know, that's not what I'm used to, but it's wild. I'm looking through, we've got quite a few callers here. I like to prioritize theists. We've got 2 theist callers so far. The first one wants to talk to us about abortion, and the next one wants to talk about purity culture and how it is worth our time.
Great.
Which I think it is worth our time to talk shit about, for sure. So maybe we'll all agree. I don't know. Do we want to talk abortion first or purity culture first? Maybe we get the abortion one out of the way. We've been talking about abortion so much on this channel lately, so.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right, let's talk to Sean. Hey, Sean, you are live on Chewed Gum with Taylor and Promise. How are you today?
Okay. A bit of a surgery, but I'm okay, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you're recovering well.
Yeah, so I had a few women in my life give me like 2 opposite ends of the abortion debate. One that's totally that it should be accessible anytime throughout the pregnancy, and some other individuals who think it should be totally outlawed for religious reasons, and I'm in the middle of that debate. I think there should be certain restrictions once the 3rd trimester happens. So I am arguing that for the sake of the father's genes, in case the father is like on his deathbed and this is his last chance to pass on his genes, last chance to genetically father any children, that the woman should honor the pregnancy and go through with it. So.
Oh, why are his genes important?
And why are they more important than the autonomy of the person that's pregnant?
My view is more it's less chance for the father to pass on his genes.
Why should that supersede? Yes, why should that supersede anything?
That's all he is. That's all God gave him was his genes.
Okay, we're going so many directions here. First of all, I just want to go back to your comment about the 3rd trimester abortions. Do you know how many 3rd trimester abortions even occur out of all abortions?
There are some. Probably not a lot.
Do you know how many? Do you know how many even take place just after 21 weeks?
No.
Like 1%, if not less than 1%, and they take place because they're medically necessary. So I don't know if you want to go there with your argument. To me, that's not interesting because it's already done with those facts. So we could talk about this idea that men's genes somehow supersede a pregnant person's autonomy. Do you want to go there with the argument, or do you want to go back to the 3rd trimester argument?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the
less than 1% of abortions. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about the genes. I think Taylor asked you a great question that I would love to hear the answer to.
Why?
Okay.
Yeah. Why are passing on genes so important?
For the years of evolution, men fight each other to pass on their genes, to pass on their legacy, pass on themselves. And
So it's an ego thing.
how you pass on yourself is through your genes. How you pass on, and that would be it. You're just done. I'm talking more about women giving consent to carry a baby in case like the father is like on his deathbed if he's a soldier. Like there's this case like in Israel, a bunch of soldiers have died. Just like bam, and out there in the field, their sperm are still ready to use, and the Israeli government is extracting their fresh.
Is this?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's pause because we're going to crazy places right now. So let's just talk about this idea of the passing on genes being a thing that matters. First of all, that's going to be subjective. I know plenty of men that do not give a fuck about whether their literal genes, DNA, whatever is passed on. They don't care. They are amazing fathers to kids that are not biologically related to them. And they get a lot out of life outside of having a biological child to, quote, carry on their genes. So this is a subjective issue to say that that's a thing. But let's pretend that there is somebody who really cares about passing on their genes to another child, and yet the person carrying their child would like to get an abortion. Tell me why that person's desire to have a biological child supersedes that other person's autonomy.
Well, I'm not talking about like being rejected by the sperm bank. I'm talking about.
I didn't bring up any kind of sperm banks. I'm asking, why does somebody's desire to have a biological child supersede another person's a personal autonomy and ability to make choice over what happens to their body?
It's to honor the father.
Okay, that's the point you've made. Can you tell me why that matters more than the other person that does not want to give over rights of their bodies to somebody else's desire to, quote, be honored?
There's a lot of hypocrisy with healthcare. Like, you can afford this healthcare, you can afford that healthcare. You might not be able to get rid of that tapeworm without like charging a leg. You might be like trapped in jail for it. I had two positions. I agree with you on one side, and there are religious people who feel like I should convert and not agree with that, the other side. My argument is that the man dies, the biological father is out of the picture, and the woman, the surrogate, just that's the only child the man has, but the surrogate doesn't want.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't think that you're tracking in this conversation. You have yet to respond to something Taylor and I have actually said or asked you, and we're going off in some weird directions. So if you want to call back sometime when you have your argument better together, then you can do that. But right now, I don't think we're going to get anywhere in the conversation. So I'm going to let you go. All right?
Have fun at the American Atheist.
Thanks, Sean. Have a good evening. Okay. Taylor, welcome to Chewed Gum. That's your first call with us.
I did not even know what to say because I did not know what he was talking about, if I'm being honest. I've never heard such a thing.
I did not either. it was going to all kinds of places. This reminds me, was it last week, you guys? I think I'm like trying to be Alyssa now and like actually pay attention to the chat, which I don't know how to do while I do the show. But I think it was last week we did our super chat prompt as like list the worst metaphors for abortion arguments, because we've had people call in and be like, it's like if you're stuck in a spaceship and somebody pushes a button and then you lose oxygen. And then this guy last week called from Costco to say that it's like if you're trapped in the woods with a child and you have to rescue them and you have to give over your time. Just like the worst arguments, but the super chats were really funny. So maybe you guys will come up with more of those.
I would love to hear one.
It was so fascinating. Okay, well, on that note, guys, I will go ahead and share with you, if I can find it. Here we go. Our announcements for the week. We have tomorrow the Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and Brian Dalton. And then we have TACIS on Thursday with Luxander and Dr. Ben. That brings us to the Sunday show would be the next one. The early show has Matt Dillahunty and Durante Lamar. I love Durante so much. Durante, I mean, I obviously love Matt too, but I'm just saying as far as our new hosts go, Durante's awesome. And then that evening we have Forrest and John Gleason. And then Skeptalk on the 21st with Paul Enns and I don't know who else. And then that brings us to Tuesday the 22nd, which Taylor will be back, and now she'll actually know what she's signed up for and what kind of calls we get over here. It's really exciting.
Also, yes. Saturday we're doing a Cus I Wanna with Forrest and Aaron, probably at 6 p.m.
Okay, there you guys go. Exciting. Voice of God, let us know. And then also, I'm back again on Wednesday. Is that Wednesday? Yes. Wednesday the 23rd. With Matt. I'm trying to get in, Taylor, I don't know if you know, I leave very soon for Finland for the summer. And that's when I'm not around very much. So I'm trying to hang out with everybody while I can as I'm dropping things.
That's awesome.
Okay. Though. Yeah, it's fun. So last summer, if you all remember, I was hosting the show in Finland. It was 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And that was a wild
Sounds
time.
Miserable.
It was. And I was not, you can imagine my arguments as the show went on were just, I would just be like, I gotta go, guys. This is not working. Also, I was in a 200-year-old smoke cabin in the middle of nowhere in Finland. And there was this fly that would wake up. Does anybody remember her name? We named her. So, because every week this fly would just start hanging out and it would be like, well, that's my cue to go to sleep. It was great. It was good times. Okay, we have more callers. We have that other theist, Zach, that would like to, and another theist, would like to talk to us about purity culture and how it's worth our time. You ready to talk to Zach?
Oh, yeah. I'm ready.
Hey, Zach, you are live with Taylor and Promise on Chewed Gum. How are you tonight?
Good. How's it going?
Pretty good. Hi. So what did you want to talk to us about?
Okay, so I saw that the show was going to be live a few days ago, and I just read, is purity worth our time? And I didn't realize that when I called in, the screener said it was about purity culture. So is that what the question was aimed towards, or was it just purity in general, whether it's morally, physically,
we can talk about whatever you want, but I would need you to define purity if we're going to talk about it.
And, well, my definition, I hope that it would align with the Oxford Dictionary definition, but I don't know. When I just think of something pure, I think that it's without any deformities, no other outside things in it. That actually, I'm just gonna look up the definition, and I'm just gonna see if that's the one that I think about.
I can share. So it's freedom from adulteration or contamination, or freedom from immorality, especially of a sexual nature, but maybe you're not wanting to go there with it.
Oh, that is okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. Freedom from adulteration or contamination.
Mm-hmm.
Quality by addition of
So,
another substance. So yeah, I would go with that definition.
cool. So in what context are we talking about this?
I'm cool. Well, once the screener said it was about like purity culture, then I knew a little bit about it before, but then I just did some like quick research just to like refresh my memory. And I guess I would always encourage men and women being pure in that sense.
What would that mean?
But
Because let's be really clear, purity, even as we
Yeah.
just defined it, is really subjective, especially in regards to
That is
sexuality. Who's deciding what is moral or not, or what's considered adulterated or what's considered contaminated? So how would you encourage someone to do something subjective? Who's getting to define that?
well, if it is subjective, then I would have my definition of what purity would look like, and then you would have your definition of what purity looked like. So if I were to explain to someone why purity in dealing with sexual relations, marriage, etc., I would encourage no premarital sex to start. And then I feel like I have a few good reasons on why I could back that potentially. But
Sure, let's hear
I may
it.
be wrong.
Let's hear it.
Sure. Unplanned pregnancies, and I would say sexually transmitted diseases.
You can get those while you're married. Like, you can have an unplanned pregnancy when you're married, and you can get STDs when you're married. You can also prevent them when you're not married.
When you're not married, you can prevent them.
Right.
That is true.
What does signing a piece of paper or even holding a religious ceremony do for, unwanted pregnancy or STDs? Nothing.
That's true. With the unwanted STDs, you would hope that your partner would want to be tested beforehand, and then you would know. But then after you get married and commit to one another for however long you stay together for, that they would be faithful, ideally, unless you're in like a open marriage, which is,
Yeah, you would hope.
I would say, uncommon.
Yeah. But I was in a very conservative Christian marriage where we both supposedly waited for marriage, and then I ended up having to get tested because I found out that my pure husband was having affairs. And so marriage did nothing to prevent that. But then I've also had safe sex outside of marriage where we were tested and we could confirm that for each other and all. So again, I'm not saying, I think the issue here would be education and consent and informed consent. I'm still not seeing where being married has anything to do with that.
Okay, I understand your point. Now, I don't know any stats off the top of my head, but maybe you do. Do married people, or what's the STD transmission rate amongst a couple that's married compared to unmarried couples that are having sex, where
I have no idea, but that still doesn't, like, as I just showed you, that still doesn't prevent, like, the issue there is, informed consent and education, like sex education. So maybe you're more likely to have some of that when you're married by chance or by circumstance, but like that doesn't mean that by getting married you're, as I told you with my example, that doesn't prevent any of that. It's the education, it's the informed consent and all of that does.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm asking you
Understood.
is why would it be better to tell somebody to wait until you get married instead of, hey, make sure that you're practicing safe sex and that you have education surrounding STDs and their transmission? Like, why wouldn't that be what you push? Like, if I had a kid, instead of teaching my teens, like, hey, don't touch anybody until you sign a piece of paper or have a religious ceremony, I would be like, hey, here's some sex ed. Let's talk about STDs. Let's talk about testing. Let's talk about informed consent. Like, do you see how one of those is more likely to prevent the thing you're concerned about than the other?
I can see, yeah, how. If it would probably be better to teach adult or a teenager or young adult about sex education than to not teach them and just say get married and you would be safe. Yes. So I would agree with that point, if that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Do you consider people who haven't slept with anybody pure? Like, do you think there are pure and like impure people when it comes to that?
Well, sexually pure, if they're a virgin, then I would assume, yeah, but morally and physically, that doesn't correlate with one another. So, yeah.
Okay, so why are they pure? Like, is the reason you believe this like because you think God cares about it, or I'm kind of confused of why you believe that.
Well, okay, this might sound kind of messed up, but if I know this is going to cause like controversy, whatever, but if I were to meet a girl and she told me her body count and it was like at a certain number, I may view not her differently, but it may cause unease in me, I guess, then to pursue her. But then also, if someone were to ask me mine, I could tell them if it was a woman, and they could be unhappy with it too. So I guess I have a certain preference and standard of what I would look for in a woman. And if
Zach,
she said certain things about her sexual history, then I don't know. I said it might kind of sound weird, but
I'm going to pause real quick, and then I want Taylor to get to respond. But I just want to, like, for everybody else, because I know, Zach, we've had multiple conversations, unless I'm thinking of the wrong Zach. You have called in, and we've had what I think were really great conversations, and I think that you have been cool about showing willingness to change your mind about things actively. And I do want to give everybody the context for that and us having this conversation, because while you may say something that we very much disagree with, that's why we have this show. We like to have these conversations. So I just want everybody else to know so they don't give you a super hard time, because there is context to this. And I appreciate how you showed up in past calls. So putting that out there. And also just going to say before Taylor responds, there's a caller that we had a couple of weeks ago. I'm so excited I get to meet him in person at American Atheist Convention. But he had called in saying that he has, quote, a preference for being with somebody that's a virgin. And we had a whole long, amazing talk about that. And he's now changed his mind. So that context is not necessarily for you, Zach, although you might want to go back and listen to it. It's just, I just want to remind the audience that these are the kind of conversations we're having here. And it's, as long as everybody is engaged honestly, civilly, I love having them. So anyways, all that.
I'm
Taylor,
surprised you
sorry.
remember me. It's been a while.
No, I do remember you, Zach. I think those were some cool, they were some cool calls. And I remember them because I specifically remember you being quick to say, yeah, you know what, that makes more sense. Thanks. And that's a cool quality in somebody. Sorry, Taylor.
No, that's okay. I was just going to ask if those standards that you said you have when it comes to like how many people, your partner might have slept with, where did they come from, I guess, is what I'm asking. Is this a belief that it's wrong, or like what is the viewpoint there? Like what is your main concern?
My main concern, honestly,
why?
I think it would be like I said, this might sound kind of immature maybe, but just like social criticism if I'm dating a girl that maybe has been with a fair amount of people, that I'm getting the, I don't want to say it, but like, I don't know, just a girl that a certain group of people would view as low class because of how many people she's been with, I guess. That's my concern. And then also, when I think of a person who's been with a lot of people, that there's a reason for it, potentially, and that I might just be another number to her. So I guess that's how I would look at it.
In that situation, though, don't you think that's more about you being concerned at how another person would view you, not so much about like physically what they've done with their body before? Because somebody that's never had sex before could also treat you and view you that same way. And that's a
That's
fair
true.
thing. Like, that's a fair thing to want to say, like, hey, for me, in order to be physically intimate with somebody, I want to feel like I hold a certain amount of value to them as a fellow human being, whether that's like what kind of relationship we have or how they're going to treat me or whatever it is. It's great. Like, that's totally fine. But I think where the problem is in thinking that what somebody's physically done or experienced with their body before is going to guarantee you any sort of treatment, whether that's for better or worse.
Yeah. And then also the people I surround myself with, probably if they knew about the person's situation, they probably wouldn't agree that I would continue to keep going with them if they knew exactly what that person was about. But
Yeah, but
again,
you'd be dating her, not them, right?
pardon me?
I said you'd be dating her, though, not them, right?
Yeah, correct. But the reason why I said I would feel, or I would be worried about what other people think, is because the people I'm surrounded by, they hold those values. But if I were in a different, if I grew up around a different group of people, different friends, different whatever, and they didn't hold those views, then they would think it's okay. So, or they wouldn't have a problem with it. So
yeah, that sounds like more of a problem with the people around you. So if other people around you are supporting bad or lazy ideas, which is like this idea that what somebody's experienced before with their physical body has any, guarantee of what you're going to experience with them, then that's their own, that's their own issue. And that's something for you to look into. Like, hey, do I want to be around a bunch of people that would judge somebody for something that doesn't even make logical sense? Or do I want to also, I get it. It's not like I don't have those kinds of people in my life, but also their opinion on that holds as much weight as the logic they're using to form that opinion, which is not. So I think that's something to look at there. Like, that's great. This is cool that you're paying attention to this and that you're thinking about this, but not for the reasons I think you think. It's to examine kind of like, wait, what are these people thinking around me? Why am I caring what they think? And now how do I move forward with this?
yeah. But honestly, I just been like, if I ever meet a girl, I just tell her, don't even tell me, because I don't want to hear it. Because if I don't know, then there's nothing to worry about. So,
I mean, I think that's better not to ask, period.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that.
No, I don't ask.
Yeah, and I think that's great, because I don't think that's anybody's business. However, if you're ever in a relationship where somebody trusts you and feels safe enough to share that with you, and they feel that it's something they want to talk to you about, I think you should consider why that would make you uncomfortable. So with the caller that we had last week, Tide, now I actually do really want you to go back and listen to that call, because it was so good. And I think you would actually
If you tell
really
me the date
appreciate
of it, I will do it.
Yeah, sure. It was literally last week. Tide called in. In fact, Alyssa, I don't know if you follow Alyssa or myself on Instagram, but we both posted part of that clip on our Instagram, because it's the first time she and I have both cried, at least at the same time, on chewed gum. So, But Tide expressed it way better than I can, kind of the thought process he went through and where he landed with that, going from somebody who outright said, I would prefer to be with somebody who's a virgin, to realizing, like, it was actually a reflection of some stuff he had to work on internally that said more things about him as to why he was bothered about a body count than the other person. And it actually presented itself as a tool for him to work on himself and grow and like himself even more, because he got to step up with where he was at in his thinking. So I think that might be something for you to consider and go back and listen to.
Oh, yeah. I may have internal things that I haven't figured out for the reason why I think those things, because
Yeah.
I'm imperfect. But, and then to ask a question.
Yeah, of course.
So another thing about sexual purity, I guess, with unmarried people consenting, is that, and I think I found a study a little bit ago, the NIH.gov or whatever, and it talked about how people who have sex outside of like marriage, I may be wrong, with pregnancy that's not within marriage, it can create, is it instability, I believe is the word, where the woman who gets pregnant without someone she's married to, because of like the lack of commitment, can cause like altering like life change, where she has to put on hold her life, single parenthood potentially, and there's probably a few more negative consequences.
Are married women at risk of that happening to them as well?
Yes.
Yes. And what's so interesting, there's countries like, which I only even know about this because my husband is from there, like Finland, where most of his friends that I know that have children are not even married, but they've been in committed relationships for years and years and years, or they're not even together anymore, and yet they co-parent really, really well, and are living, and I have friends like this in the States too, are living significantly better lives because they didn't stay in a relationship that ended up being something they either grew out of or wasn't healthy for them or whatever reason, and they're still able to parent well. So I think that's, again, a parenting issue, not so much a like, let's not have sex before marriage because what if somebody gets pregnant, and then what if I decide to be a shitty dad and not help parent this child? You know, like those are still other issues, not the issue of purity in a relationship. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Now the one thing is that if you're married and your husband or wife, after having a child, decides to leave, there's legal routes you can take to somewhat, I want to say guarantee, because there's people in poverty who are married that get divorced and don't have anything. So, but if a mother gets pregnant, the husband leaves, because of the marriage and you getting a divorce, there would be obligations on the father's end.
Financially,
if you took it to court. Yeah.
But you can do that even if you're not legally married.
Yeah, and those a lot of times don't work out. Like, let's say the husband or dad can't keep a job. They're not going to get any money from him. Or let's say I've known women who have become homeless because they gave up their careers and were a stay-at-home mom for X amount of years. And then the man leaves and she is left with nothing. And statistically, women do worse after divorce than men for obvious reasons. But it can obviously lead to them not paying anything at all, or worse, you not having anything at all.
All right, fair. So then the goal should be to find someone who's... Oh,
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. You finish that thought. The goal should be to what?
Oh, to find a partner or a spouse who wouldn't be a bum or treat you that way, I guess, is the end goal.
There's all kinds of stuff here. Yes, people generally, I think if you're wanting to have children with somebody, because that's different than having sex with somebody. If you're wanting to have children with somebody, then yes, you want to look for somebody that can parent well with you, that you're going to align with on things and all of those, finding values. But what you were just getting at, I fully agree with, which is this idea that people should have the things they need if other people so like a place to live, food, education, shelter, all of those things. But again, none of that has to do with who you sleep with or not. Those are issues that I fully care about, which is what's helped shape a lot of my political views. But those are not the same issues as should I sleep with people before I get married or not.
Okay. So then, if all these things, so then would you guys ever get married then, knowing that, okay, I don't mean to sound like harsh or
We're both
anything.
married.
Oh, so then, okay, why did you get married, if I may ask? If, I guess the points I brought up for why marriage is better for purity, and you can do, anything can happen outside of a marriage to people who are unmarried and vice versa. All the points you guys made, then I guess what's the point of getting married? If marriage, religious ceremony and a piece of paper isn't really meaningful, then why get married?
Oh, I want to make sure you know it is meaningful, or it can be, because that is subjective. And I think that's why Taylor and I are probably going to both have different answers as to why we got married. And I want to let Taylor answer as well. So things can have meaning. I just think it's a social construct and also can be a legal agreement that has different meaning depending on the couple that you ask. So, for example, I actually would have been fine to never marry my husband and just stay with him forever. However, we did decide to get married, and there's many reasons, and probably even different between him and I. The ones that we both are in sync with, for sure, we're from two different countries, first of all. And so for me to like go spend time in Finland with him, he's also a US citizen, but I'm not a citizen of Finland. So for us to do all the traveling and stuff together, there's some logistics that make more sense for us to be married. That's part of it. On the logistics side of things. Another part of it, I was actively wanting to change my last name for lots of reasons. And I loved the idea of, we call ourselves like a team of us getting to have the same last name, which is funny because when I was a Christian conservative, I didn't change my last name when I got married. I wanted to keep my own. But now I found some value in that with this particular person and the background of his family and his family name. Another reason, we wanted to. It sounded like fun to us. We've both been married before. And I think once you kind of like, you have somebody that you call a husband or a wife, and in this society that unfortunately takes marriages more seriously than, quote, boyfriend and girlfriend, which is silly, but you kind of get used to that part of the social construct. And that was appealing to us. Also, this public declaration of, hey, you know what? I think I found my person, as sure as I can ever be about something. And I want people to know this is who I'm doing life with. And you can consider them part of my life now, for whatever that's worth to the people hearing it. So that's just a few of the reasons why my husband and I chose to get married, which I'm sure they're going to be different than Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, mine were pretty simple. Just feel like we were making really, strong commitment to each other. And we also wanted kind of both of our families to know that this is it, that like this is this is going to be the long haul type thing. And we also just wanted benefits of being married. Like we went back and forth for a long time of like, what?
Tax reasons or tax benefits for being married?
And like insurance and stuff.
And medical reasons. Like that was another thing for us. Like if we want to own property together and we want to be able to make medical decisions for each other, like outsource that to each other if something awful happens, it's significantly easier in the United States if you're legally married to somebody. Kind of bypasses a lot of legal hoops.
All right. I was wondering, so makes sense.
Yeah. Well, Zach, we've got some other
that's all I got, so.
Callers on the line. No, I love this. And I know people sometimes give you a hard time because you're thinking through a lot of things, but I want you to know that I really appreciate it, and you're welcome to call back. And I'd love to hear back from you. Taylor will be back here next week. So I know you've done that before where you call back after you've thought about stuff and you've either had more questions or reached a different conclusion. And I'd love to hear from you if you feel up to calling then.
Yeah, I'm going to do some soul searching for the next week, figure out my issues. So
Sounds good.
Love that.
Thanks so much, Zach. Have a great
yeah,
night.
have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Okay, there. That
He sounds
I feel like, yeah, that exactly. And I think that's the difference. Sometimes we have callers that call and they're like, "Are you going to let me talk?" And it's like, oh, probably not. Now that you've started off like that. But when somebody is genuinely questioning things, even if they've come from some what I would consider to be bad ideas, if they're actually engaging honestly in the conversation, let's have that conversation. I think that's really important.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Do you
totally
get
agree
a
with
hard time for being an atheist and being married?
Yes, yeah, a lot of times, because a lot of people will tell me that basically Christianity like invented marriage, and I'm like, that's just not true. But okay.
Yep.
But yeah, sometimes
I get
people are
that.
like, what's the point? And I'm like, whatever I want it to be.
Exactly, which is one of the coolest things about not subscribing to dogma, is that you get to determine what something means. And I think that makes my marriage feel more meaningful because I know that I'm choosing it based off of my values, not what somebody else has told me. And I've been married before where I was in it for Jesus, and I'm not married to them anymore. So how cool is that, you know?
Yeah.
On this topic, we have another theist caller who believes that purity and modesty are important and marriage gets some of its value from these things. Shall we talk to Ryan?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Ryan, you are live with Taylor and Promise. How are you?
Good. How are you all?
Doing
Good.
well. So we heard your topic. What do you want to talk about exactly?
Well, you all kind of got into it a bit with the previous caller, and I was listening, and so I'll just kind of explain my point that, in my opinion, marriage it has a multitude of benefits. A lot of them are more governmental, like tax benefits, all the financial aspects. But then there's, that component, like you were saying, that's support, love, companionship. I can't remember who said it, but they worded it that, someone that's there to make decisions for me, to help me, basically to be that support, that partner. And to me, it's really hard to build that. And don't take this. I'm just saying from, the standpoint of looking at statistics, if the person you're with has a higher body count, and statistically speaking, those with large body counts are more likely to engage in adultery, it's hard to build that foundation of trust and, build that companionship. And then, in my opinion, because of that, purity has some importance towards marriage.
I want to look at this study that you're talking about. What is it saying? Who does what more in marriage? Or the higher the body count, the more likely you are to cheat. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I'm not saying it's just women. It's actually, statistically speaking, it's more likely men. So it goes both ways. Guys have to be accountable too, just as much as women have to. But
so, are your reasons not related to like the Christian God, or are they just because of that you were talking about?
Just that. It doesn't have really much religious context at all. Just that outside of, all the governmental benefits, the only real benefit for both parties in terms of marriage, the only shared benefit is that companionship, that loyalty, that sense of security and support. And I'm saying that it's hard to really have that sense of loyalty and support when the other partner is more likely to cheat, and there's a higher chance of adultery because they aren't as, I hate to use the term, but pure. I'd rather say modest, but whatever. It's just semantics.
How do you decide where to draw the line with that type of stuff?
Well, that's kind of a gray area. It's, a slippery slope. Like, you can't really just draw a line. It's that's a good question. I would say, anything over, I guess, well, it is almost a function of age. Like, the older you are, the more partners you're going to have. But if you have 50 sexual partners by the time you're 25, I would say that is a pretty good estimate of someone who's lacking in purity. That's a good way to put it.
Lacking in purity. Okay, so here's my hang up. I'm looking at what I can at some of the studies that I can find that are somewhat helpful. And the problem is, first of all, these aren't consistent across all cultures. So this is different, and I think it's looking like it's primarily in the US where we're getting some of those numbers, which I think says a lot about the dogma and that we attach to marriage, where instead of somebody feeling like they can, work on things or even be like, hey, I got married too young, this isn't the right person for me anymore, they don't feel like they can leave the relationship. I don't think cheating is okay in any circumstance whatsoever. It's a betrayal, so that's wrong. But I'm saying that's also something I would bet we see much more of in these kind of circumstances. The other thing is, what determines if somebody's going to cheat or not? Because somebody can cheat on the first person they're ever with. It doesn't matter their body count. And then they can go on to cheat on everybody after that. So that body count can be 1 or 50, like you said. The things that are used to determine cheating are things like impulsivity, narcissism, low conscientiousness. Those are things that you should have conversations with a partner about. Do you think that it's possible for somebody to go sleep with 5, 10, 50 people because in their, early 20s, they're like, you know what, I want to go out and live. And this is something I like doing, and having sex with lots of different partners is cool for me. And then they can reach a point where they're like, yeah, I don't really feel that impulsivity anymore. I'm not a narcissist. I feel like I'm pretty high in conscientiousness, and this is a partner I would like to commit to, or this is a time in my life I'd like to find a partner to commit to. Yes. Do you think that that's something that can occur?
Yes, but also what you said about earlier, the personality traits, if they're a narcissist, you can kind of have that conversation with them, but you mentioned earlier that it's really no one's business, and in some cases it's an unknown variable of how many people they've been with before, sexually. And I can look and try and find the study, but
Body count is not, I don't think that body count is somebody else's business. If somebody's a narcissist, that is your business. If somebody struggles with impulsivity and self-control is unfamiliar to them, that is your business. That's something that's going to directly impact you. What I'm saying is somebody sleeping with lots of people does not necessarily mean that they are a narcissist or that they are impulsive or any of those things. That's what I'm trying to lay out for you, is that while that can be true, that is not the accurate way to determine if somebody's going to cheat on you. First of all, you can never determine that 100%. There are people that have been in committed relationships over and over again, and then the last one, that's where they go cheat. There are people that cheat in every relationship. There's people that have only ever been in one relationship and ended up cheating. So that's not how you determine. As the studies show, it's things like impulsivity that determine that. So wouldn't it make more sense to care about those kinds of character traits rather than a physical body count of somebody?
Well, do you, off the top of your head, by any chance, know the studies that show that it's actually those behavioral traits instead of body count?
Those are covered in the same studies that you just referenced. So okay. I can go link those in the chat once I figure out how to do that from my iPad, because this sounds like a cop-out, but everyone will tell you it's a miracle that I'm able to look at the chat while I do this. So I can put those in there for you. But yes, that is what, and also it would make sense if basically, let's say people never cheat on each other, but then once they reach a certain body count, then they start cheating. Then it would be like, okay, let's look at that. The problem is somebody can cheat on somebody who has only ever been with 1 or 2 people before. That's happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's, you know, that is a possibility. I was just saying that based off the study I saw, is that those that are more sexually active, on average, tend to be more likely to cheat. So, but
Sure, but
you
that's
make a good
that's
point that there are those
yeah.
other factors.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be helpful for you to sit there and find out a body count. That person could still easily cheat on you, and that's not going to indicate to you whether that could happen or not. What is helpful is to figure out, how do they feel about commitment? How do they feel about betrayal and being open and honest with partners? How do they feel about taking personal responsibility? How are they with self-control? Things like that. So there's all kinds of things to take into account when looking for a partner that you don't think is going to cheat on you.
Okay. Well, this is kind of, I'm not shifting the goalposts, but I'm taking a different approach. What about the perspective that those with a lot more experience are going to have expectations that those with less experience possibly cannot meet?
It's funny that you say
Yeah.
that, because I feel like a lot of people who wait until the day that, I'm not saying that you shouldn't wait, but I've heard this many a times, that people who do wait, they build it up in their head so much of what that first time is going to be like. And it's pretty disappointing when the time comes. I hear that pretty often. So I think a partner could be disappointed either way. Do you believe in like sexual chemistry? Like people, like, do you think that's part of compatibility or no? Because it sounds like
I mean,
you think that.
a little bit, yeah. I believe there's some. I mean, there's physical attraction, but to be honest, I think it's a bunch of hogwash. Successful relationships built on shared hardships and continual strife together. But
I'm not saying it has to be the main thing, but you kind of made it seem like you do think that's like sexual chemistry is a thing that
People
would
can be
impact the
compatible
relationship.
or not.
Can you repeat that? Hold up, you just cut out.
Well,
Can
I was
I
saying that it. Go ahead.
Can I lay it out for you like this? When I hear this argument, Ryan, it sounds to me like somebody that's saying, I'm afraid that if somebody has eaten at better restaurants than mine, they're not going to like the shitty food that I'm serving. And then that's not fair to me, because now they've raised their standard for what kind of food they like. And as you can hear, when I lay it out that way, it doesn't sound really great. It sounds like you want to force that person into eating at a restaurant where they don't like the food. Now, the difference here that I think is that I do think that sexual compatibility is kind of a spectrum, and people, I don't think having more or less partners makes you more or less compatible with the person that you're with. I think that's a totally different topic. But if you're concerned that somebody having been with other people is going to make them raise their standards because now they know their body better, now they know their likes and dislikes, that shouldn't be the concern. The concern should be like, hey, I would like to have a partner that loves me enough and cares about me enough to communicate with me about sexual preferences. Hey, this is actually something I like. This is something I don't. Can we try this? Like, that's what you should be concerned about, is somebody that will communicate with you, because most of those hurdles, as far as when it comes to sexual preferences, can be overcome through communication.
And that's fair. I mean, if you have a partner that's willing to communicate and discuss that, it's just going back to your earlier analogy. It sounds like the best solution is then to engage in a game of who can gain the most experience to achieve better sexual chemistry, which is, I think, where a lot of the mentality, coming from a male standpoint, I think that's where a lot of the cultural mentality of guys who, essentially, I'll just use the term hoe around, and have a lot of experience, that's sort of the driving motivation there, is that they are more
and
sexually
why isn't
proficient.
why isn't that a thing for women? Like, why is that good for men and then it's the opposite for women?
Well, I mean,
Because
we
don't they gain more experience too? Or
well, they do. I mean, I'm saying it goes both ways, but if you're asking why is it the case currently in, our society that for guys they're celebrated, for sexual experience women are demonized, I mean, I think that's just because the religious foothold that exists in America and has historically existed.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
problem.
I'm just being frank.
It's why we have this show, because it isn't fair, and it doesn't make sense. But I don't think that the answer to that is nobody should be out there having sex. I think the answer is, hey, consenting adults should be able to make whatever informed decisions they want. And I think, as Alyssa always says, we should also advocate for sex education. I like to say I think it's also great to advocate for people to emotionally grow and figure out what they're looking for in a partner, if it is a relationship or if it's just casual sex, and knowing how to communicate that and be ethical in how you approach sexual relationships. But I don't think the answer is ever advocating for telling grown adults what to do with their bodies when it comes to consenting adults making informed decisions.
Well, I mean, that is a fair opinion, and I agree that, I mean, ideally you don't want to regulate and tell them. I'm just saying that from a personal perspective, I just felt as if marriage kind of loses some of its value without that support, loyalty kind of mentality. And
But why? Because I know some people that are married and they have they have ethical non-monogamous relationships where they have decided together what works for their relationship and what that looks like, and what the quote rules, or what the parameters, the boundaries surrounding that are, and their relationship is just as meaningful as any other relationship I've seen, because what matters at the end of it is that they are having shared values, they're on the same page, they're communicating well, they're agreeing to what they do and don't do. To me, that's what makes something maintain meaning, is if both people involved feel that that's the meaning they're looking for out of the relationship.
I'll be straightforward. I'm not going to comment on open relationships. That is a concept that is foreign to me, and I will not ever understand. So I'm not going to sit here and try and hypothesize.
That's fine. You don't have to, and that's fine for you to say, like, I could not find meaning in that sort of relationship. But to say that marriage loses meaning in that situation, well, marriage, it's what those two people make out of it and what they've determined.
But then you get into the gray area of what is adultery then?
There's no gray area there. That's very clear, because you decide and you have discussions and you communicate. But okay, we can talk about it in another way. There are people that have called into this show to say that marriage is about family. And so if you're not having children, then there's no point to you getting married. Would you agree with that?
Marriage is about family, and if you're not having children, there's no point in getting married.
Or there's no meaning to marriage.
No meaning. Okay, I would disagree there. Now, I do see that there's benefits to marriage for children's sake, but
that's a side conversation that we kind of were already having. But talking about your claim of a marriage losing its meaning. Just because somebody's marriage looks different than yours, does that, or what you deem meaningful in a relationship, does that make that relationship less meaningful to those people?
Probably not to them, but from my perspective, it would be for me.
Well, why does it matter what you think about somebody's marriage?
Well, I mean, it doesn't unless they ask my opinion. I'm not trying to regulate marriage. I'm just saying, here's my thoughts on it, and
sure,
I'm not.
But I
would regulate.
One of the things that I love about being aware that things like marriage don't have objective meaning is that I can just appreciate what somebody has from afar, and I don't have to have an opinion about it. I don't have to sit there and be like, Well, their marriage is just not meaningful to me, and therefore I'm going to form this opinion. It's just like, oh, cool, that's what's working for them. Unless I hear otherwise, that's great, good for them. It's getting to suspend judgment instead of, when I was religious, having to constantly judge everything and moralize everything around me. I don't see any value in that. It puts your own head in a bad space. It causes you to treat people differently, whether you think it does or not. It just comes out when you form these negative opinions of people. It is going to come out in how you treat people, and it's going to come out in how you treat yourself and how you view your own relationships.
I don't mean this in an offensive way, but do you actually suspend it, or do you just, that's what you say, but then you subconsciously have your own opinion on it based off of your own sense of morals, values, and your interpretation of the situation?
I'll tell you my thought process. It's gotten less and less like this because it's, I think, like a muscle that I've used. When I first left religion, I would find myself being like, like, I remember the first couple I knew that had an open relationship. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. How could they? And then I caught myself with that feeling because I was like, okay, wait a second. I don't believe in any of this religious stuff in myself towards somebody for something where I feel like I'm moralizing the issue. Now, with my husband, now he gets to hear me talk it through, where I'm like, okay, I think this, and then I have a sounding board to go through it. But also sometimes it just happens in my head where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this judgment. What is it about? And like 99.99% of the time, it's coming from a place of me moralizing something for no good reason at all. And then I'm able to let it go, which is really great.
Okay, well, I mean, sounds like you're great at self-reflection.
I had to.
Not
I don't know that
I'm.
I agree, and I wasn't good at it at all, and I still don't know that I'm that good at it, but I'm actively working on it. I think when you have a change as big as, your entire faith, you have to do a lot of self-reflecting.
Brian, I also think about the fact that there are so many different personalities out there and so many different type of relationships that work for different people. In my mind, it's like, no way would one type of relationship work for all couples. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not a chance with how many different personalities and different types of people out there. There's no chance that one type of marriage works for everybody.
That's true. Everyone's going to have their own unique situation. So, and that's
Right.
why I'm not going to sit here and say that, my ideal marriage and how it functions and how they interact is the cure-all for all marriages. It's just my perspective and what I want out of mine. I don't want an open relationship. And one thing you said earlier, that it's no one's business. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just about to say, You're allowed to have that preference.
Yeah. But like you said earlier, that it's not the other partner's business how many people you've been with. I mean, if you were asked, would you just tell them, no, I'm not going to tell you that? I mean, to me, it's almost, if they're interested in knowing, that's a part of who I am. And if that's something that they make their decision based off of, if they're going to trust me, I feel like as part of being in a relationship is trusting that person. And if that's an important factor, then why would you not share that and discuss that together? I don't understand the rationale of keeping that secret when you're going to be a partnership in a marriage where you're not really supposed to have secrets, and you're supposed to, share your problems and troubleshoot them together as a unit.
Well, I feel like if you were like in a relationship with them, and that's like something that you need to talk about with a partner or whatever, they would just have to be compatible with you on that. And if not, maybe it just wouldn't work out if they, didn't feel good about talking about it.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
Well, Ryan, before we let you go and move on to our last call for the night, is there anything else you wanted to add on or chat about?
not on this topic. There's other things, but I'll call in some other time again.
Taylor will be here next week, so we love another call.
All right. Do you all know the topic for next week?
It's whatever we want to talk about.
Okay.
So you can think about it, and we have the titles on the shows that we don't even come up with ourselves, although we probably should be doing that. I think we're technically supposed to. And so that's just to get a conversation going.
Okay. One topic I have wanted to discuss, and I've always missed the chance to discuss it, is essentially, I guess, trans rights and abortion. Those are two topics that I quite frankly don't know enough about, but I also have strong opinions on it. So I feel like
I appreciate
part
the
of my
honesty.
duty to educate. Yeah. I should probably educate myself on it and have a discussion.
We'd be happy to help get your wheels spinning. Why don't you call Taylor and I back next week to talk about abortion and share your strong opinions, and then we'll presumably push back a bit, but it sounds like we can have a really civil conversation about it. And then I would call TACIS on Thursday with your questions about trans rights. You can talk to actual trans people about this.
All right. Well, thank you. I'll see if I'm free and not drowning in work.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Bye, Ryan.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm sure you're learning. Sometimes we have like really aggro calls, where things get intense. But in general, here on compared to the Sunday show or maybe even Skeptalk, we have like really curious callers, especially lately. I'm sure people in the chat recognize that are down to have their views pushed back on and engage fairly honestly. And it sounds like they have some pretty the kind of stuff that we came from. I don't know. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm shocked that it seemed like neither one of the reasons was related to God. I was like, oh, I was kind of confused by that. But
that's also here on Chewed Gum. We got a lot of that. Well, and that's misogyny does not discriminate. As you know, that happens all over the place. So
true.
That's what happens. Well, we have one last caller. It's actually an atheist caller, Dan. So let's bring Dan on. Hey, Dan, you are live with Taylor and Promise. What did you want to talk to us about tonight?
Hey, guys. Big fan of the show. It's been good hearing the last few callers. I have this, claim about, gender identity. And it's one that sort of brings me a lot of pain and rub with my community. And so, I was calling to see if you could push back on my ideas or open my mind up a little bit.
Sure. What's the claim?
So it's, there's various different ways I could get more specific or more general about it, but the claim, plainly is I don't believe that simply stating or believing that you are something makes you that thing, and I'm talking particularly.
Sorry, you cut out. Particularly about what?
Gender.
Okay, so right off the bat, where do you stand on gender being a construct, not biological sex?
I stand on the affirmative of that. So I think that sex and gender are distinct, and I think that gender is a social construct rooted in many things, one of which is sex.
Does it have to be rooted in sex?
To me, so this is an interesting point. I'm generally a prescriptivist. So when I think about words, I think about the way they ought to be used, or the way that they are most effective, or something, the most useful way to use the word. And so,
who gets to decide what useful is?
Everyone.
Okay. Keep going. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but yeah, keep going.
Okay. Well, yeah, just to, I think, fully answer your question, I think that it, to me, I came from, I'm in a really sort of liberal, progressive community of people. My family was that way. At some point, my sort of thought rebellion was thinking that gender and sex weren't distinct at all. But now the place that I've come to is that gender is distinct from sex. In fact, it's like a very nuanced social construct that has to do with both, or like, I guess, three things: gender identity, gender expression, and biology. And I think it's mostly the latter two.
Why?
Why do I think it's all of those things, or mostly the latter two? Or
Why do you think it's mostly the latter two? Because do you have any trans people in your life? Have you talked to a trans person? Because being trans is not like this choice. Like, somebody doesn't just wake up one day and say, I am a man, or I am a woman, or whatever they identify as. That's not how it works.
I guess the reason why I think it's the latter two is, or mostly the latter two, is that I guess it's purely intuition. To answer your other question, I have plenty of trans friends, and this is, a big. I call them by their preferred pronouns, but whenever they get to asking me my thoughts about this, it's like a big rub. A big source of conflict. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it is. Sorry, Taylor, you go ahead.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, why is it so important to you to, like, think these two things are the same?
Well, I don't.
So you're open to changing your
sounds like
mind about it?
Yeah, it sounds like you
Well, no, I
are
don't think
truly
that gender and sex are
conflating.
the same.
But you definitely think that they're severely attached to the point that you are finding yourself on a very not great end of the aisle.
Yeah, I do think that they're attached. Yeah.
Right. But sorry, Taylor, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no.
I was just gonna say, but like, if you recognize they're different things, I guess I just don't see the problem if you recognize that they can be, not the same. There are plenty of scenarios where sex and gender are different for different people. So I'm just confused, I guess, of where the hang-up is.
Maybe I can help clear it up. It's confusing for me too, but I think that I agree with that last part that you said. I think that there are situations where someone's sex doesn't match their gender and vice versa, particularly like, and this is where I think it starts to get more, I don't know, like, particularly when someone's expression is different than their biology. Like, I think if someone
But we see that, wait, I got to stop you there, because expression, like, that is such a subjective, even so, first of all, throughout history, how we express gender has drastically changed. For example, we used to see men walking around in high heels and pink lace and all of this all the time in certain parts of culture. So that's just one example of all the ways, like, over thousands and thousands of years, how gender has been completely different. But then, even across cultures now, gender looks completely different in parts of the world that haven't been impacted by all of the capitalism, basically. I think you have this show on, so you might want to mute us so that we don't hear the feedback from it.
Oh. Sorry. Well, no, I don't I don't have the show on. I'm just on the phone.
Oh, okay. I heard some echoing, but yeah, continue.
Oh, well, I don't have any. Oh, I guess I agree with your point. I mean, I think that like gender expression is this wildly subjective thing, and gender expectations and norms have transformed a lot throughout culture. Essentially, I think that this is like a very, to me anyways, like a complicated, nuanced sort of idea or subject. And so often it, to me, in so many words, to me, it gets reduced to people are whatever they say they are. I just don't, that doesn't seem real to me. You know, it seems so
I haven't
unintuitive, so untrue.
I haven't heard that argument. I think people are what they are. And so if someone is trans, which like, have you asked your friends about their experience as a trans person? Which I don't blame them if they haven't felt comfortable sharing this. So maybe you have and you didn't get answers, which, spoiler, I'm going to refer you to call TACIS and talk to some actual trans people about this, who are going to have all kinds of answers for you. But if you talk to a trans person, this is not like, again, back to what I originally said. They didn't just wake up and say, I am a woman. Like, that's not how this works at all. It's a realization of something that they are. So it's not just about gender expression because, as you said, or as you agreed with, gender expression looks different across culture, across time, even from person to person. I have 3 sisters. Each of us express our gender in different ways as far as, you know, what that looks like to other people goes. So again, I'm struggling to see what your hang up is. I don't, to me, it does sound just like you don't feel comfortable or familiar with something, and therefore you formed this opinion about it. And that's a sad place to be because I think you're really missing out on, I don't know what the right word is here, but on basically just like not being afraid of people that you don't understand.
Yeah, Dan, I think that's a big part of it is like you don't have to understand everybody's experience and like thoughts. You don't have to understand them wholly to like respect them or to accept them because I mean there are plenty of people I love and accept and I haven't been through what they have been through or I don't have the same life as they do, so I don't fully understand them, but that doesn't really matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess just to give more context, because if you guys were sort of asking about it, I do have quite a few trans friends and family, and more than respect them, I admire them. Like, I think that the journey that I've seen some of them go on, like the adversity that they faced, like from my family, from their community, I think that, like, especially any sort of hormone therapy and surgery is, like, to me, a brave thing to do. I mean, I know to them, they've sort of relayed that they feel like they have no choice, but, like, I see so much beauty in, like, becoming what you feel like you are. My claim is really simple, and I don't mean to disrespect trans people. Maybe I am just by claiming it, but my claim is just that you have to become what you are. You aren't what you are simply by claiming that you are that thing.
But
nobody's doing so. Yes, and who gets to decide what that looks like? Like, is it up to you, Dan, to decide, oh, they've done the things that it takes to, quote, become? Like, what does that even mean? How? Also, here's where my real concern comes in. What if you knew somebody and you had no idea they were trans? Your whole life you thought they are this gender, and then you find out they're trans. Like, to me, this really is getting into some purely just you judging territory based off of what you think makes somebody a, quote, man or a woman.
Well, I mean, that situation has happened many times in my life, and I respond with kind of what I said before you just spoke, which is just acceptance. Particularly it's let's see, it's acceptance, and then it's like actually me believing and feeling like they are whatever gender
So
that they
you
have
are
transitioned to.
you're
once
being
they, I
transphobic
guess,
towards
sort of,
people that don't pass. That's essentially what I'm hearing
yeah,
here. Because it's not fitting
passive.
your idea. So that means also that there could be a woman who is who identifies as a woman and has whatever I guess not what you would consider who is both sex and what am I looking for? There could be a cis woman. Thank you, love that word. There could be a cis woman that you look at and think, I think she looks trans because she's got more masculine traits or has a deeper voice or all of the above. And then you could be like, oh, I don't think, she's really a woman. Because you've just decided like what to you a woman or a man or a human should look like to be able to be something.
Cis woman is like, I guess, like traditionally female bodied or something. Is that
Born
I never heard that one.
sex is yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I guess, yeah, that's where my intuition goes. But really, I think it's a mixture of identity, expression, and biology. I don't think it's about any one thing.
But you keep using intuition, and I think you got to replace that word with prejudice.
Okay. I'll use that.
Because
I guess.
like now it's coming down to things people can't necessarily like control, which is just like what they look like, or it's like
or
people
even
can't
ways they can control and they like how that, you know what I mean? Like what if a woman wants to have a more androgynous look and you can't tell what genitalia they have? How is that your business? Why do you even need to form an opinion on that or be bothered by this idea that, oh, like somebody can't just say they are something? Well, actually, technically, yes, they can. And what we're asking is not like, oh, you have to understand everything and know all of the things. It's just believe people, like just basically believing people. I am not going around asking Taylor to see her birth certificate and to see what's in her pants in order for me to use the she, her pronouns that she uses, or to consider her a woman.
Good thing. I'm glad you don't. I would never do that.
I'm not asking you if you were born male. But you're Dan, and you're he, him,
Yep.
and we're going with that, And you're on the phone. I have even less reason to, quote, believe you if I use your reasons for believing things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
And we haven't even started talking about intersex people or women with PCOS, where it causes them to grow facial hair, all kinds of stuff. That it sounds like it would cause you to not perceive them as a woman, and I don't know why you would want to take that side.
Yeah, no, I think that intersex people are real. I think that androgynous people exist, and they don't. I forgot what the phrase you used was, but they don't cause me to feel bad or confused or afraid or anything like that. Some of them are my best friends, but it's really a much simpler claim about like identity to me. And I think that I'm not sure why, but it seems like the sex and gender subject has this really sort of magical quality about it right now amongst the very progressive people, which doesn't apply to like race, for example. I'm not totally sure what the distinction is there. If that makes any
race
sense.
is because that's not even close to being in the same realm of topics, like not even remotely. Gender is very much a as we've said, it changes over time with how it physically presents itself, with how the colors blue and pink that we now associate with boy and girl used to be flipped. Like, it was completely different. And so this is a completely separate topic. I'll be honest before we wrap this call. I think what we're getting to here is that you have formed in your mind what appears to you as woman or what appears to you as a man, and you are concerned with that getting confusing for you in how you're viewing it. And I'm sure there's a fear at the root of all of this, and I think that fear is your problem, not trans people's problem, not anybody's problem that chooses to express their gender however they want to, however they can, all of those things, because you're now forming judgments, like Taylor pointed out, against people that potentially can't even control any of those perceptions that you're having of them. And that's nothing but pure prejudice at that point.
Oh, well, okay. Sounds like you were wrapping up the call. I'll think on that and reflect on,
Yeah, think on it. You're welcome to call back.
as much as I can.
I do think it would be great for you to call in on TACIS and talk to them.
Sure.
And I think there's some things here too that maybe you can just go read more about. I don't really want to send you to your trans friends because it sounds like you guys have already had those conversations and it's probably hurtful and painful to them. But even like not knowing the term cis, which I couldn't remember the word, so, but go read about these sorts of things, because there's these arguments or concerns that you're bringing up are not new at all, and they've been addressed beautifully and in a way that makes so much sense that that's how I've changed my views when I used to be, an evangelical Christian who thought all of those people were going to hell. So I think it's worth educating yourself more on, and I acknowledge that's what you are, I think, trying to do by call in. But I just want to encourage you to also call in and talk to trans people on TACIS.
Will do. I'll try.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Those are not my favorite. Those are Forrest's favorite calls. They're not mine, because that's one of the few topics where I have to remind myself to be calm, to talk to the person, because it just makes me want to rage.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's just he needs to learn how to deprogram himself from what he's learned
100%.
growing up in society. And that's a lot of, I feel like the source of a lot of people's bigotry is not being comfortable with not understanding other people or things they aren't familiar with. And it's kind of frustrating, because I'm like, why hang on to it? I understand Christians believe that their God's going to be angry or it's against his will, but I guess I even less understand atheists who I'm like, who is that for? Do you know what I mean? I don't see the point.
Totally. And even if you don't, like you were saying, even if you don't understand any of this and it's confusing for you and you do have this way that your mind is programmed and you're having to figure it out and you need to go figure that out however you need to figure it out, at the end of the day, just leave trans people alone. You don't have to you don't have to know things like that in order to be like, you know what? I don't even have to form an opinion about this to acknowledge at the end of the day that trans rights are human rights, that somebody else's experience is not my fucking business. Who they are right here, right now, that's what matters. And believing people matters. Because are you also going around not believing other people that don't fit? They share a story about this one vacation they went on. You're like, well, the way that I imagined Aruba wasn't like that. So I don't think they actually are a traveler. Do you know what I'm saying? How far are we taking? Why is it about trans people? I'm sure it's not transphobia or anything, why is that the thing that people pick? It's wild. Anyways, hopefully Dan is actually open to learning about all of this and has a good conversation over on TACIS or calls us back or whatever. But anyways, we have super chats. Also, I just want to say, if there's any theists that are listening, I feel like Taylor and I both next week would enjoy call in with your biggest claim.
Yes, please.
There is a God and it's this God, and let's talk about it. Maybe we can make like a TikTok. I don't know how we would do that, but we could like edit it together
We
to
can
get
figure it
people to, you know, that sound where it's like, do you want to form an alliance?
Oh yeah,
We could do that one and then
Yes,
like
we
get
should do that.
some theists to call in. But yes,
Absolutely.
just know that, and or if you have friends that are theists, encourage them to call in, and we'll try to pick some people up too. Do you know how we do super chats here? We just take turns reading them. If you're good with that, I'll go first. 666 from Jamie M. Oh dang, was it the rapture? I know, poor Alyssa. I wonder if her power is even back yet. I'll text her. Let's see.
That
But
is
thank you,
wild.
Jamie.
It just randomly went
I know.
out. $5 from. I have never seen that name in my life.
Ewan? Maybe.
Mitchell, song prompt, will the fetus be aborted? By Jello. Don't know who that is.
Biafra.
AF. Much. Who?
Biafra.
Biafra. Much love from Scotland. Ever needing whiskey, real stuff, hit me up.
Listen. Oh, Ewan? Is that how you say your name, maybe? Sorry that we're not getting it right,
I'm
but
so
we're
bad at
trying.
names.
We're trying. I'm the worst. I want to go to Scotland so badly. I want to do the whole like whiskey tasting thing. I'm hoping maybe we get to do that this summer because I'll already be over in that part of the world. So I would love it. $5 from PhD Tony. Culture purity is super important. A dirty Petri dish will compromise any laboratory study of microbes. Yeah, context matters, I guess, when we're talking about these things, for sure. Oh, I heard from Alyssa. Her power literally just came back. So
Dang.
thank you again, Taylor. You are the best.
Yeah, no problem.
Now she has to finish her taxes. Poor Alyssa. Sorry, I'm dying. Her and I both waited till like the last minute.
Oh my gosh, is today the 15th?
Yeah.
Oh my, that talk about
Sounds like
cutting it close.
all of us girlies waited.
Damn. 1999 from Did You Eat Breakfast This Morning? Thanks you guys for what you do on this channel. And Eve, fuck those people. They're just mad their God does not exist and have to take it out on you instead of looking for the truth. Lots of love.
They get real mad. It's okay. Some of them end up changing their minds, so that's great. $5 from President Starscream. Living on through the positive influence you have on others is way more important than living on through passing on your genes. Yeah, that conversation.
I feel like
whatever
that's
we're
all,
gonna call it.
I feel like that's all egotistical, honestly. I know there are a lot of people who are gonna like disagree, but this need to like continue your legacy. I don't even know what that means. Like what legacy? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
The legacy that your sperm made it somewhere one time. I don't know.
$10 from June Uric. Obviously, male genes are better than female genes. They have pockets. True.
To be fair, yeah. Except now I feel like we're starting to get pockets in more things, which I really appreciate. That is how I determine a good dress from a bad dress. Like, it has to have pockets. $5 from David Haxer. Hi, Arden. Hi, Josie. # Team Ben. I'll pass on the message.
$5 from...
I think just Jessica.
Jessica. Oh, I have a love for Finland. Plan to move there, and I'll be there this summer for a couple of weeks too. Would be so cool if I bumped into you. Moi?
That is so fun. Yes, moi. That's Finnish for something that I don't know right now, and my husband's hearing this and probably giggling, because I think moi is like hi or bye or something that I should know. But that's amazing. That's so cool. I've actually thought about doing a meetup this summer. You should put in the chat. Well, I don't know if you want to put it in the chat. What weeks you'll be there, or email. If you go to my Instagram, it has my evewasframed.contact@gmail.com, because I would like, I would be more keen to do a meetup in Finland if I also know some familiars will be there as well. So let me know. That would be super cool. I feel like I can safely have like here. I can't just be like, hey guys, let's all meet up at a coffee shop. Like I'm in Tennessee. Somebody will show up with a gun. So $5 from Sarah Talks Podcast. Promise you're the best Bandicoot. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Jimmy. That argument was hilarious. I had a headache. I was annoyed. And it was great on the podcast the other day. Alyssa said on one of the past episodes that they were naming cartoon characters that you could find attractive, and Alyssa said Crash Bandicoot, and so Jimmy was like asking me on another episode, what, like, isn't that crazy? And I was like, wait, actually I can see it. So then it was a whole argument. It was really great. We talk about really serious things on the podcast.
It's okay. A lot of people say Spirit the horse, so you're good.
You're kidding.
No, I see that one all the time. Maybe
That's
I'm just
wild.
places. I don't know.
It's TikTok. That's why I got the fuck out of there. That's hilarious.
$4.99 from. Why do I not know how to say names?
Dude, don't.
Retro.
Alyssa and I can't do it ever either. You're good.
Just Read Lilith by Nikki Mary, retelling the Bible from her perspective, exploring evils of Yahweh, his sole goal to uphold patriarchy. 10 out of 10.
Nice. I will have to look into that. $5 from Ray Gatto. You are both so beautiful and smart. Keep up the good work.
Aw, thanks.
I'm so glad that Taylor could join. You guys don't even know. I was in a I'm like walking around my house, like calling, texting all the people. And I was like, I'm just going to message Taylor just in case. And she was like, cool, I'll be on right now. Amazing.
I was lucky I was on my phone like as you sent that, because sometimes in the evening I force myself to put my phone down the whole evening, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I have my phone in my hand.
Me too.
$5 from Da Costa, Sean and Zach. Good thing I'm at school because the look of confusion on my face isn't out of place. Let's see what else happens today.
Yeah, the Zach conversation makes sense to me because I've talked to Zach before, so I get it. And also, I don't think some people really understand the kinds of thoughts or beliefs, I guess I should say, you have and that you have to get out of when you grow up the way that we did. There's some really terrible ones, and this is how some people end up changing their mind or learning better, is by engaging in conversation with others. And it's like Zach said, he's surrounded by people that only think that one way. Who else is going to have the conversation, you know? Exactly. The Sean conversation, I have no idea what was happening there. I have nothing to say about that one. $5 from Mr. Kiki1. Something keys, something locks, aka I have the emotional maturity of a 16-year-old. That's what religion does to people, though. It really does. And you don't even have to be religious to have this attitude, but it comes from religion. It comes from, the purity culture of evangelicalism, that it wants you to stay in the emotional maturity of a 16-year-old. It doesn't want you to think and progress past what you've been told about, like, oh, this sacred thing. But so far, we've had a lot of luck with callers that are willing to be honest and change their mind once they learn more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of male sexist atheists don't realize where their thoughts are coming from. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, like, totally. It's coming from this same culture that they left behind or that they've always rejected.
Exactly. $9.99 from Cody Cooper. I am a nuclear plant radiation protection technician. What a title. To use the word contaminated to describe someone who isn't a virgin like Zach did his way out of line.
Yeah, contaminated means something completely different for you, for sure. That's that's a wild job. Wow, that's super cool. Thanks so much, Cody. Oh, there's like no name or anything attached to this one. Oh, it's Candy. When I was in the dating pool and on OkCupid back in like 2012, that was a common question, body count. I think it's more so asking like any STD, STIs. I think we are just more transparent nowadays. Yeah, I think that's why I'm glad we're progressing in society. It's about having actual conversations, because your body count could be 1 and you can have 5 STDs that you're not going to disclose to that person. And that's not the problem itself, is having an STD or an STI. It's how you engage in conversation around it, and your education on it, and informing the person that's consenting to sex with you.
Right. And I also feel like that question can have a time and a place, because if men are saying like, should I ask it like on dates randomly? I'm like, no. But like, if you're about to enter a relationship with someone and that's important to you, then sure, like have that conversation. But I always question when they are asking that.
And what answer is going to be like, what's that going to change for you, you know? And maybe look at yourself if it is going to change anything. And then if it's not going to change anything, why do you need to know so bad? I don't know. Alyssa loves to talk about body count. And in fact, plug for Alyssa, go to her Instagram. She has a merch store launched, and it is the cutest / coolest stuff. I think one of them, it's this really cute picture on there, and it says something about body count. I wish I could remember. Anyways, that should inspire you to go check it out. Is this one me?
It's me. $9.99 from Retro Just Re. Oh, this is the same thing. What?
Because Retro didn't know if the $4.99. Oh, sorry that you had to send it twice, but thank you. They sent it twice because they thought, yeah. I literally did that a few weeks ago when I was, it was Forrest and somebody, and then I didn't know how to super chat, even though I host a show here. $10 from Quantum Chaos. So I forgot that Chewed Gum starts at 7 Eastern, the best time zone. I kind of agree as somebody who used to live in Eastern time zone. So I'm a bit late to the party. As a result, I have nothing of value to add to the conversation. I hope you're all doing good. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Thanks, Quantum.
$10 from SJL. I still have a tiny bit of baggage around a girl being a virgin, and I know it's baggage. Imagine how the world would change if there was no hymen. Hashtag the hymen is not a freshness seal.
I'm going to have to tell Alyssa that one. That's hilarious. Love it. $10 from Paul Mexner. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? You thought that was going to slip me up, and it didn't.
$5 from Rich S. Dropping a nickel to say OMG. Who the hell cares? In my best Family Guy voice. Sorry, I couldn't do the voice because I don't know it.
Listen, me either. And I couldn't do it even if I did know. So $10 from Paul Mexner. Purity culture led to me getting married to the first woman who showed any interest so we could do the deed without it being sinful. It was awful and destructive and ended in divorce. Yep, same thing happened to me with a dude because obviously woman thing wouldn't have been allowed. But yes, awful. Awful, awful, awful. But it was more like somebody that I had known since I was a kid that then convinced me. I mean, I wasn't a kid when we got married. We were the same age. But then basically pressured me into doing stuff physically like nothing. But then at that point I was like, well, now I'm damaged goods or chewed gum. So now I have to marry this person, which is insane. But also I was 18. So,
but a route that a lot of people go down.
Yep.
$5 for Alyssa Nguyen. Purity culture is an uncontaminated petri dish. The only acceptable body count is 0. Dating assassins, murderers has risk I don't want to take. Oh, okay. I was confused.
That's amazing. I know. Body count is such a funny way to phrase it. $5 from Firebird. I saw a video recently from a lesbian about how feminism has failed women in terms of sexual liberation versus relationship values. Your thoughts? How feminism has failed women in terms of sexual liberation versus relationship values? I would have to hear like way more to even know what's being said there. I feel like things that aren't feminism are then being labeled as feminism. So that's an interesting topic if you want to call in sometime with a little bit more details. I think I need more details to understand exactly what's being said there. But
yeah, I also feel like sorry,
go
go ahead. I was also just going to say it probably also depends on, which woman feels liberated by what. Exactly.
And feminism should have choice. So it's not about like feminism isn't like advocating for women should go sleep
Right.
with whoever they want. It's
Mhm.
women should well, it is that. It's women should do whatever they want and not do whatever they want and have the values that
Right.
they want,
Right.
however those play out. So I think it sounds like that person is conflating feminism with something else.
$5 from Bastille. See Polysecure by Jessica Fern.
Yes, great book.
Sorry, I think that was yours and I read it. Oh well.
It happens too. $5 from Firebird. Obviously, you ladies interact with a lot of misogynists, but what's one trait or ideal that you simply can't engage them with where you're triggered? I mean, like I said, it's for me, like when we're talking about stuff that is just transphobic, even if the person is meaning well and trying to learn, those conversations, and that's probably a me problem. I probably need to get better at a lot of these arguments. The reason that I am able to have them and be calm is because it's just I've had them a million times. I'm so used to it. I can follow the script they're going down, or just follow out the logic as it plays. But some of them I do like when I feel my emotions getting more involved, especially when it has to do with like feeling like I'm having to defend the very existence of people that are extremely dear to me. That can be a little bit triggering. Obviously, I'm like privileged as fuck to even be able to have that as like this little, it's not a real trigger, but you know what I mean. I don't know if there's anything other than that. What about you?
I can't really think of anything because I feel like I engage with all of it. But I will say when dudes start like using weird patriarchal insults like I bet she doesn't have a man, then I just stop engaging because I'm like, what is this conversation? I'm not talking to an adult here, so I'm not talking anymore.
Right.
So I'm not really triggered. I'm just done with the conversation.
Yeah. I know I think it's really hard. Like once somebody is a misogynist, which is very like a lot of people can be misogynistic, but if somebody's just like outright a misogynist, I don't give a fuck what they think or say at that point. Like, you know, and if we have that conversation on air, it's like for other people to hear, not because I care about that person.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's it.
$5 from Paul Mexner. Yo mama's so old that the doctor is recommending you start discussing elder care options with her. Nice.
A couple of weeks ago, somebody called and it was like one of those theists. I think they were basically doing the like look at the trees argument or something. I don't know. It was, or the watchmaker fallacy, something where it was just getting so boring. And they were I couldn't tell if they were trolling the conversation. I was just over it at that point. And I said, they said something about like, how do you know if a tree? And I just interrupted them. And I was like, how do you know if your mom isn't? And he just like paused and was like, what did you say about my mom? And I was like, it's a joke. Never mind. And then the next caller was this dude that called in to say, I just wanted to stand in solidarity with the caller before the comment that was made about his family member.
Oh, brother.
Solidarity over your mom joke. Anyways, thank you, Paul. Love the mom jokes always. $5 from Zoran Kukovic. I butchered that, I'm sure. Promise. Obviously, it's not Tuesday. Obviously, it's not Tuesday, but Tuesday. Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting I have to introduce it that way. Taylor, I'm going to have to call in and pronounce my last name correctly for you and Forrest.
I kept calling him Kukovic. Oh, no. And I was like, I'm sorry I called you a cuck.
Well, but, I'm sure I just said it wrong, too. That's hilarious. Thanks, Zoran.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. I don't know enough about it, but I have strong opinions about it. Should be a major red flag. Dude, I can't imagine that thought process at all. Yeah, when he said those back to back, I was like, okay.
I appreciated the honesty, though, because that is the problem. Yeah. Most of the time, I mean, all these dudes that keep calling in to debate abortion with us, I wish they would start it with, hey, I have this really strong opinion, but I don't have good reasons for it. Cool, great. Let's hear the strong opinions, and then we'll absolutely obliterate them with some education. That's fine. $5 from Janae Blinkow. Nothing. Thank you.
$5 from MetalNet. Hashtag pro-choicer here. Did you all know that apparently first access to consciousness in fetuses takes a really long time to develop, 24 to 28 weeks? I actually did know that because I like to bring that up sometimes in debates. But yeah. That's why, especially when people are talking about when a majority of the abortions happen, I'm like, why exactly are they like a human being to you if they don't have any sentience at all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like facts, though, generally, so. $5 from Dew. I'm trying to decide if I should come see the Line hosts in Minnesota this weekend. Is that where it is? Yes. I don't even know where I'm flying on Thursday, you guys.
Yes, it is.
Great. Yes. I'm 50-50, but it's $300. How many in chat are going? All right, chat. Let Dew know. Also, if finances are a problem, I do think that they have a discounted ticket that you can apply for. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think I remember that from a while back because I know that finances are a big thing. From a very selfish standpoint, I hope to meet you there. But yes, chat, sound off if you're going to be there. I can't talk. It's after 8. Everybody knows that after 8, Alyssa and I both start losing our minds and we can't read or speak or anything.
That's so fair. $5 from Janae Blinkow. As a recovering ex-Christian, the Line has helped me so much. Purity culture is BS. So grateful for chewed gum and you guys' ability to calmly correct.
Thank you so much, Janae. $5 from Mira G. Just wanted to send some love to Promise Taylor, all the mods, and everyone in chat. Thanks, Mira.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear my neighbors playing a lovely song from their car for us?
$5 from Monkey. At Typewriter, today's wrap-up, let people fuck. STDs aren't a sign of morals. Social norms aren't always correct. Why is that a tongue twister? Leave trans folks alone. It's not that effing hard. True.
Yep. Thanks, Monkey. $5 from Paul Mexner. Get Jemmy to make a Don't Apologize to Him t-shirt. We do need to revamp some of our merch. It's been a while. We definitely need to. We need to get one to Taylor because I feel like Taylor would appreciate. One time, somebody interrupted Alyssa, and then Alyssa apologized for interrupting back. Something like that happened, and I just went, "Don't apologize to him." But I was dead ass serious because I was so annoyed with him, and I didn't want her feeling. And then it turned into a thing. So now we put hashtag DAF, and then we have sweatshirts that say "Don't apologize to him." I'd like a tank, a little crop or tank top that says "Don't apologize to him." That would be good too.
Cool. I mean, I love that. So
you seem like you would like it. I think is that you?
Yeah. $5 from Invader Tim Forrest. He makes fun of me because I don't even know how to say his last name, and I still don't. Valkai, is that right?
Valkai.
I think it's Valkai.
Okay. Video titled "Smecks and Sensibility" is a good place for Dan to start if he actually values his friends enough to learn.
Yeah, I didn't know if his video was out yet, but yes. $10 from Sapphic Bibliophile. Effing weird purity culture story. The ministry school I went to was into miracles and had a day when a male pastor prayed that all non-virgins get their hymens physically restored. Did we both go to Bethel's Supernatural School of Ministry? And was it Chris Valentin that said that? Because I was there.
That's so disgusting.
Yep, he does that a lot. If it's not that, if it's another ministry school with another guy, then that's even more wild.
$5 from Alyssa Nguyen. Sorry about the ransom note type. YouTube's filters weren't being nice. Mispronouncing names. If Alyssa got my first name wrong, I'd be very worried. What?
And Alyssa, I think this Alyssa's name is Alyssa Nguyen. is how we have learned.
When?
is the right
Okay.
when. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Yes. Luckily, at least our Alyssa over here at Chewed Gum does know how to pronounce her own first name. Although, guys, like I said, after 8, Alyssa and I both start just not
Deteriorating.
being able to work. Yeah. $5 from Dunzo. Y'all are a great duo. Keep fighting the good fight. Oh, thanks. I'm just so glad that you're back next week. That's extra
Me
fun.
too.
And I didn't have to feel like, oh, I have to get everything I can out of this one time.
Yeah, and I'm glad I had this to like kind of warm up because I get so nervous. Like the first time I was with Forrest, I was like shaking, just because I don't know, couldn't tell you why.
I
and today,
I still get nervous.
and I usually like have some wine or something before, but I was like, I guess today I'm just raw dogging it because I don't have time.
Amazing. Well, you were great. You're an excellent co-host. I don't think that I would even like. I was thinking about it. Don't tell Jimmy I said this. If somebody, I mean, this is a lie because I've actually done this. But in general, like if somebody called and they're like, hey, we need a co-host in 10 minutes, I would just be in a panic. I would be like, I don't think I can pull it together. Like I need at least 30 minutes. And you were just like, I'll step up. It was so great. I was thrilled. We were like, we're going to have to cancel the show. But that's the way to do it sometimes, I think.
I know. $5 from Rabadoodle Death Cat. Promise and Taylor were the first atheist creators that I found through my For You page on TikTok. Aw, almost 4 years ago now. I'm very happy to see my faves in one place. Aw, that's so nice.
That's so cool. I love that. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, the most valuable player tonight goes to Taylor for stepping in. I know Alyssa missed being here, but thanks everybody for going with the switch. And good news is Taylor, like I said, is back next week. That's going to be super fun. And also, I think she and I both just really love theist callers so much. So send them our way. Thank you to Amargan. Thank you to all the mods, crew, screeners, and to our Patreon producers. Also check out our Patreon, patreon.com/call the line. Love you guys. See you next